I'm Charlie Huizenga, back again. Lightning never strikes twice, they say, but it did today. I'm going to share a upcoming project on natural ventilation that we're excited to get going on. It's a project sponsored by ASHRAE, and specifically it's looking at ASHRAE Indoor Air Quality Standard 62.1 for commercial buildings, and so looking at natural ventilation in the context of indoor air quality. And it's going to be a 2.5-year project. It's going to be a combination of literature review, some lab experiments, some simulation work, all funded by ASHRAE and with a little bit of match funding from CVE. Just to give you a sense of it, ASHRAE 62.1 has a guideline for natural ventilation, specifically for meeting the indoor air quality standard, that suggests that one of the ways you can comply with that is by these what we'll call rules of thumb. Whereas if you're doing natural ventilation from a single side of a space, then you're limited to having the depth of that space be twice the height of the ceiling. And if you're doing cross ventilation, then that you're limited to having the depth of that space be 5 times the height of the ceiling. So there's not a lot of more guidelines than that. There's some rules about the area, the size of the opening and whatnot, but if we think about natural ventilation coming into a space from one side, if you don't do a good job with it, there's risk that you could have some stagnation in the back of the room, not get good air circulation back there, leading to lower air quality. And one concern is that designers don't have a lot of confidence in the guidelines. They might revert to using mechanical ventilation instead of relying on the guidelines. And then trying to balance the indoor air quality versus the thermal comfort issue, and how do you manage all that? The standards themselves, these guidelines of twice the ceiling height and 5 times the ceiling height, it's a little vague where these came up. They sort of arose in these standards at one point, and there's not a strong scientific basis for them. So one of the goals of ASHRAE is to try to establish whether they're reasonable or not. So we're going to start out looking at just a lot of literature on this topic. I threw this up there because it's from the over 100 years old that people have started to think about natural ventilation in buildings and how we design it, up to more modern computational fluid dynamics work. We're going to actually do a full-scale mock-up of a building, of a space in our wind tunnel lab. I guess some of you have been there for our Wednesday meetings in the past. And we're going to look at buoyancy or stack ventilation, where we're going to heat up the inside of a space, vary the height of the ceiling, the depth of the space, vary the size of the window, and measure airflow into the space. We're going to measure, using CO2 as a tracer gas, how well it's ventilated and how that ventilation works throughout the space. Does it reach the far side of the space away from the window, and how deep does that go? So those will be physical measurements. We're also going to use our wind tunnel and do some scale models of cross ventilation through wind-driven ventilation. These will be done at a much smaller scale, not full scale, and looking at trying to fill some gaps in literature about cross ventilation and how well ventilation works in that scenario. And then we're going to use those experimental results to validate, along with a lot of material we can get from the literature that's existing, to validate some CFD simulation work of looking at airflow and air quality in spaces. And then the result of that is to propose some new guidelines for ASHRAE for their standards and handbooks based on what we learned from this project. So we're excited about where it's going, how it can be useful to the profession, and also we're going to have a breakout session on this. And anyone who has some experience or interest in this topic, we'd love to hear from you, just to get ideas of your experience with natural ventilation design, what you think should be in guidelines, how we should approach that. So we'd love to get some feedback from you. Thanks.